If you've ever fantasized about life on the high seas, maybe pour a drink, lie back, and listen close. Let me show you why you wouldn't last a day as a pirate. It all begins with the smell. Not the salty sea breeze you imagined. Not the romantic aroma of rum, rope, and freedom. No, this is something different. Something older. A festering bouquet of mildew, rotting wood, fish guts, human sweat, and something that might have once been bread, but now has its own fungal ecosystem. The kind of smell that clings to your soul. The kind that makes you nostalgic for plague pits. The ship is called the Mourning Gull, and it's not majestic. It's not even seaworthy by most civilized standards. It leans to one side like it's deeply offended by gravity. The sails flap in protest. The wood creaks not like a noble beast, but like an arthritic drunk. You arrive barefoot, hungry, and with a stolen knife in your belt, which means you're already overqualified. There is no ceremony, no initiation, no grand welcoming by a jolly crew. The moment your foot hits the deck, someone shouts, "Don't bleed on the ropes," and you are handed a bucket and told to start scrubbing. The first thing you learn about pirate life is that there's absolutely nothing romantic about it. The second thing you learn is that everyone has lice. Everyone, even the captain, who insists on being called His Saltiness, though he hasn't bathed in 3 voyages and smells like a boiled eel. You scratch. They scratch. It becomes a kind of communal rhythm, like sea shanties but sadder. Your job, at least for now, is rat boy. You are to catch the rats, remove the rats, and not get bitten by the rats. You fail on all 3 fronts. The rats are the real captains of this vessel. One of them steals a biscuit from your hand. Another one hisses in Latin. You suspect it's possessed. The food? Oh, the food. You are served a bowl of something called chow, which is less a dish and more a dare. It's gray. It has lumps. You don't ask questions. You chew with a bravery you didn't know you had. The taste is like salted despair. The texture, like regret kneaded into dough. And that's lunch. The crew consists of people with names like One-Eyed Bastard, Peggy Two-Fists, and Gentle Ned. No one uses real names. Real names are for gravestones. You're told to pick your pirate name. You hesitate. They call you Guttersnipe. It sticks forever. The chain of command is as clear as mud. There's the captain. Then there's the quartermaster, who may or may not be plotting to kill the captain. And there's everyone else, who just want the captain and quartermaster to kill each other quietly so they can go back to playing dice. You are beneath them all. Even the ship's parrot outranks you, and he swears more eloquently. That night, you try to sleep. There is no bed. There is no hammock. There is a damp pile of rope under a leaking barrel. You nestle into it and pretend it's warm. You are cold. You are wet. Something crawls across your chest. You pray it's a beetle and not a tow. The sea does not lull you to sleep. It lurches, spits, rolls, and howls like a drunken god with abandonment issues. You clutch your stomach. You vomit. You clutch it again. You cry a little. No one notices. That's good. Crying is not pirate behavior. Crying gets you assigned to bilge duty. Or worse entertainment. The crew sings that night. A horrible song about someone named Mary the Harpoon, who supposedly fought off a sea monster with a spoon and a grudge. The lyrics don't rhyme. They slur every verse. But somehow, it sounds right. Real. Like pain wrapped in melody. You drift off eventually. You dream of dry land. You wake up mid-hurl. Again, there's a storm. The deck is chaos. Rain whips your face like a scorned lover. Men run, ropes snap. The ship screams. The sea is not a place. It's an animal. And tonight, it is angry. Someone grabs you. Tie the lines. You don't know what that means. You grab something. It's the wrong something. A man swears at you in 3 languages and headbutts you for good measure. You crawl across the slick deck, fingers raw, eyes burning. The sails lash like demons, the mast shudders, lightning flashes. For a moment, you see the shape of the ship twisted, alive, terrifying. Then blackness again. You fall, not far, but far enough to bruise your ego and possibly your spine. You lie there, feeling the rain soak through your already ruined clothes. Somewhere above, the captain screams. She's a stubborn beast, but she float if you feed her fear. You have no idea what that means. You decide you hate the sea. By morning, the storm is gone. So are 3 crewmen. No one speaks their names. Breakfast is a biscuit so hard you could bludgeon a man with it. You eat it anyway. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because pirates don't care about glory. They care about not dying before breakfast. And breakfast tries to kill you anyway. You wake up to the sound of screaming. Not terrified screaming, not even angry screaming. No, this is instructional screaming, a brutal form of teaching where words are barked, threats are implied, and everything is made worse by the fact that your ears are still ringing from the storm. Your body aches like it's been borrowed by someone who hates you. Your back is wet. Your mouth tastes like moldy nails. You are unmistakably still alive, which is a shame. Your first full day as a pirate begins with knots. The bosun, a man with a jaw like a broken oar and eyes like cracked glass, shoves a coil of rope into your hands. "Figure 8 knot," he says. "If you get it wrong, you'll hang yourself accidentally. And I won't stop you. You don't know what a figure 8 knot is. You try anyway. What you produce is a sort of limp tangle that resembles a strangled octopus, the bosun size. Now you owe the ship a new rope. And maybe your dignity." He takes the rope, fixes it in 2 seconds, and throws it back at you. Try again. Before the mast eats you, you nod. You try again. The mast does not eat you, but it splinters a chunk off your scalp later when you walk into it while trying to avoid being whipped in the face by a swinging boom. Progress. Sailing, it turns out, is 2% adventure, 3% screaming, and 95% rope. Rum is not what you thought it would be. You pictured barrels of rich, dark liquid served in mugs with songs and laughter. Instead, it's a cloudy, evil-smelling syrup that tastes like fermented disappointment and is served in cracked clay cups that haven't been cleaned since the last plague. Outbreak. You drink it anyway. Everyone does. It's the only way to forget how many rats are staring at you while you eat your supper, or how many crewmen casually mention the screaming rocks like they're a tourist attraction. The rum doesn't make you brave. It makes you dizzy. It makes you loud. It makes you think you can dance, and you try and you fail, and someone calls you baby goat legs for the rest of the day. You pass out next to a cannon. It smells like rust, smoke, and regret. You wake to cannon drills. Load. Fire. Reset. The rest of the drill is a blur. Your ears ring. Your face is smeared with soot. You don't remember your name, but you do remember that gunpowder smells like burned earth and teeth. At night, they tie knots again. This time, it's not for practice. It's for the rigging. The wind's shifting, and someone has to go up and adjust the sails. You try not to make eye contact. You fail. They point at you. No, you say yes. They say so, so now you're climbing. The rigging is thin. The sail is loud. The ship rocks. The sea laughs. You climb like a wounded crab. Higher, higher. The deck below becomes smaller than your courage. You reach the top. You're told to loosen the sail. You do. It whips around and hits you square in the chest. For a moment, you consider letting go. Just slipping off and letting the sea embrace you like an old lover. But then you remember, you can't swim, so you cling and pray and finish the job. When you get down, the crew nods. Respect? Maybe. Or maybe they're just impressed you didn't scream. You wake up soaked, not in sweat, not in rum, in seawater. At first, you think it's a dream, the kind where you're drowning in bed and wake up choking. But no, you're already choking, because your bed, a moldy coil of rope tucked beneath. A cannon has become the centerpiece of a very real and very enthusiastic flood. It's pouring in from the gun ports, sloshing in ankle-high swells across the deck. And they're shouting above, real shouting. Not the usual, you drop the bread kind of shouting. We might all die before breakfast kind. You scramble up, barefoot, slipping through the rising water, past barrels, buckets, and a rat clinging to a floating biscuit. You're halfway up the stairs when the ship lurches hard. Your knees slam into the wood. The air punches out of you. And you hear the unmistakable groan of the hull, twisting like it is being wrung out by Neptune himself. You burst onto the main deck, and it's chaos. Rain lashes down in sheets, stinging like gravel. The sky is a boiling bruise, clouds tumbling over each other like they're drunk on violence. The sea is not a surface, it's a beast. A writhing, roaring, mountain-churning monster that rises, crashes, swells again. The Mourning Gull rides each wave like a terrified flea. The mast shudders, the rigging screams, and the crew? They're everywhere pulling lines, shouting orders, swearing prayers, swearing oaths, just swearing in general. You stand there, wide-eyed, half-drowned, and entirely useless. The captain sees you. Move or die. He bellows, his beard plastered to his face. Water pouring from his tricorn like he's wearing a leaky roof. That gets you moving. You don't know what you're doing, but neither does the storm, so maybe you're evenly matched. You throw your weight against a line. You help pull in a sail that's flapping like it wants to go to heaven without the rest of the ship. You crawl along the deck, trying to lash barrels down before they become deadly projectiles. One rolls past you. You dodge just in time. It crashes into a crate of dried fish and explodes in a cloud of brine and fury. You are soaked to the bone. Your arms ache. Your teeth chatter. Your hands are covered in rope burns and bruises. You are absolutely certain that this is how you die. And worse, you die anonymously. The sea is not done. The ship groans again. Louder this time. The kind of groan that makes sailors stop and glance at each other, with that look that says, if you have unfinished business, say it now. Then comes the wave. It doesn't arrive. It ascends. A wall of water so tall, it blocks the horizon. A liquid cliff. A towering insult hurled by nature. You stare up at it, slack-jawed. And for a moment, everything goes quiet. The wind holds its breath. The crew falls silent. Even the sails seem to tense. Then the wave crashes down. Everything is water. You are thrown. You think. Or maybe the world simply moves without you. You tumble across the deck, slam into the railing, and flip into the air. You hit the deck again on your back, or your head, possibly both. You taste salt. You feel pain. Your lungs scream. Your vision flashes white, then black. Someone grabs you. Strong hands, rough hands, dragging you toward a mast. You cling. You cough. You vomit. A wave tries to rip you away again. You hold. You scream. No one hears you. Hours pass. Maybe minutes. Maybe years. Eventually, the storm weakens. Not because it forgives you, but because it gets bored. The rain slows. The waves shrink. The clouds slink away, and you are left with the remains. The Mourning Gull survives. Somehow, the sails are torn. The deck is a disaster. Barrels float where tables used to be. Half the crew is missing. Not dead, just missing. Possibly in the hold. Possibly overboard. Possibly inside the barrel that no one's opened yet. You lie on your back, coughing up salt and bile, staring at the bruised sky as it slowly turns blue again. Someone throws a soaked piece of hardtack onto your chest. Breakfast, they mutter. You don't laugh. You just cry, quietly, saltily. It blends in with the sea. Later that day, you are sent to pump water out of the lower hold. It smells worse down there than anywhere else on the ship. A rancid soup of seawater, rotting food, rat waste, spoiled grog, and disappointment. You wade through it with a bucket and a prayer. The bilge pump clanks. The floor squelches. Every step is a gamble. You find a dead crab. On a ship, mid-ocean. You don't ask how. By sunset, your hands are raw, your body numb, and your eyes so puffy you barely see the horizon. But you live. Technically. That night, the crew drinks to surviving the storm. You're handed a mug. You sip. It tastes like turpentine and mold. You sip again. Because pirates don't say no to rum, even when it burns holes in your soul. The captain stands up, dripping with salt and authority. She tried to kill us, he says, raising his mug toward the sea. Again, the crew grunts. It's not agreement. It's not defiance. It's something older, something like respect, not for the sea, but for surviving it. You raise your mug too. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because the sea doesn't care how brave you are. The sea doesn't care how skilled you are. The sea just wants to see if it can break you. And it almost did. By now, you think you've adjusted. You survived your first storm, learned to tie knots without crying, stopped tripping over the anchor rope, and even remembered not to call the captain sir. You think, maybe, just maybe, you found your sea legs. You haven't, because this morning, you wake up with something moving in your hair. You bolt upright and slap your scalp like it owes you money. You find a small, many-legged horror clinging to your curls. You flick it away. Another one follows, and another. You run your hands through your hair and find more. And that's when you understand. You are no longer just on a pirate ship. You are part of its ecosystem. You dash above deck, scratching madly, eyes wild. One-eyed bastard glances at you, shrugs, and holds up a louse the size of a grain of rice. Biggest one wins, he says, grinning. That's when you realize this is normal. Everyone has them. In their hair, in their shirts, in their beards. Some of the crew name them. There is a man named Grubby Jack who wears a strip of linen full of what he calls his shoulder pets. You gag. The ship asthmatic, if he can be called, that is a toothless man with fingers stained brown from pipe tobacco and things you don to identify. He hands you a tin of thick, bitter-smelling salve. What's this, you ask? Boiled goose fat, pig ash, vinegar, and hope, he says. Rub it on. Or don't. You'll still itch. You rub it on. You itch anyway. Then there's the food situation. After a storm, the fresh supplies rot fast. The bread goes moldy, the meat swarms with flies, and the water barrels grow things that could probably vote if given rights. You're handed a bowl of something gray, slimy, and lukewarm. You prod it with your spoon. It jiggles. "What is it?" you whisper. Gentle Ned peers over your shoulder. "That's deck pudding," he says. "Why's it gray?" "Because it used to be meat and bread. Now it's thinking." You eat it anyway, because hunger doesn't care about ethics. Within an hour, your stomach is staging a violent mutiny. You spend the next day in the latrine, which isn't really a latrine at all, but a short plank bolted to the back of the ship with a rope to hold onto so you don't fall into the sea while doing your business. It sways. The wind hits your rear end with surprising malice, and a seagull laughs at you. You learn quickly to fear the plank. One wrong shift, and you're a splash away from being fish food. They say 2 men have already vanished this month. Death by defecation. Someone jokes. No one laughs. By afternoon, the captain announces you'll be stopping at a cove to resupply. A cheer erupts from the crew, some hope for proper food. Others hope for shore leave. You hope for the kind of land that doesn't rock when you stand on it. As the Mourning Gull glides into the inlet, something flutters overhead. A green and red blur. A feathered streak of hatred. It's the parrot, the ship's mascot. His name is Colonel Bloodgut, and he hates you. He's lived aboard longer than most of the crew. No one knows where he came from. Some say he belonged to a Portuguese sorcerer. Others claim he's immortal. What you know is that he perches above the galley, shrieks obscenities in 5 languages, and has pecked 3 men into tears. Today, he lands on your shoulder. You freeze. The entire deck goes quiet. Colonel Bloodgut leans in close to your ear. "Filthy stink rat," he shrieks. Then he bites your ear and flies off. No one helps. Someone throws you a piece of fruit and says, "He only pecks the ones he likes." You are bleeding. You eat the fruit anyway. It's sour, like everything here. As you unload crates onto the shore, you notice strange bumps on your arm. You scratch them. They weep. The medic calls it the itch. He offers no cure. Just another greasy salve and a cup of fermented eel juice to calm your humors. That night, you drink it. You don't calm. You hallucinate a conversation with the figurehead. She tells you to escape. You try to sleep, but the colonel keeps screeching. "You'll never make it. You'll never make it." Until you throw a boot at him. It misses. He steals it. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because everything bites. The lice, the rats, the birds, the food, even your own damn boots. And the worst part? You're starting to get used to it. You thought you wanted land. You dreamed of it. Yearned for it. Imagined the feel of dry dirt beneath your feet. Imagine solid ground staying still beneath you. Imagine trees that didn't creak like dying men. An air that didn't reek of wet canvas, brine, and despair. You imagined birdsong that wasn't screamed directly into your ear by a parrot with trauma issues. But now that you've stepped onto the shore, something's wrong. First, there's the wobble. Your legs have forgotten how to stand on unmoving earth. You sway like a drunk in a wind tunnel. The beach isn't rocking, but your body still expects it to. It makes you dizzy, then nauseous. You throw up behind a mangrove tree and feel more betrayed than ever. Second, the beach has bugs. Big ones. Ones with legs that move like clockwork and wings that shimmer like oil slicks. One crawls up your sleeve and bites your armpit. Another attempts to court your ear canal. The local sand appears to be 30% biting ants and 70% sunburn. You don't walk across it. You limp, slap, scratch, and curse your way forward. And third, you're not the only ones here. The cove seemed empty at first glance. But now, deeper in the jungle beyond the tree line, where parrots screech in vines, dangle like ropes hung for sins unspoken, you hear drums. Not happy drums, not party drums. These are the slow, deep, methodical kind. Drums that say, "We see you." The captain, to his credit, does not panic. He waves a hand and says, "They'll let us trade." They always do. You're not reassured by his confidence, especially when you notice he has 4 pistols strapped to his chest and is applying war paint with one cracked mirror and a steady hand. You're sent inland to forage. Your instructions are simple. Don't die, don't get eaten, don't insult the trees. You're not sure if the last part is literal. The jungle is a nightmare. It hums with life, and by life, you mean murderous vegetation. Everything is too green, too wet, too loud. The air is a stew of humidity and invisible stings. Spiders the size of grapefruits dangle overhead. At one point, you walk past a plant that hisses at you. You collect coconuts. You find a bush full of red berries that look like candy. You pick one, only for one-eyed bastard to slap it from your hand. "Eat that," he says, and your throat'll sing songs in 3 octaves before it closes. You thank him. He farts in reply. Back at the beach, the locals arrive. They come by canoe silent, sleek, with paddles that barely touch the water. They wear body paint and feathers, carry spears that gleam, and have faces like carved stone. The pirates suddenly become ... polite, not out of respect, out of survival. Gifts are exchanged. A few knives, a bolt of cloth, a string of glass beads. In return, dried fruit, salted fish, a massive clay jar of fermented something that smells like dead honey, and hot wine. Everyone drinks it. You drink it. You probably shouldn't have. Within the hour, half the crew is vomiting in the surf. You crawl into the shade of a palm tree, forehead slick, stomach boiling, vision spinning like a broken compass. You swear you see Colonel Bloodgut sitting in the tree above you, whispering ancient curses in pidgin Latin. The medic finds you, slaps your cheeks, checks your pupils, and declares, "Ah, good. Just jungle fever. Not the death kind." Evening brings mosquitoes. Not the small ones you knew in the city. These are avian. They hum like war machines. You try to cover up. They find holes. You slap your arm and kill 2 at once. One is already full of your blood. You feel proud. And then sick. Again. Dinner is salted iguana and hardtack dipped in jungle wine. The captain makes a toast. To the land, he says. Everyone groans. You sleep on the beach, wrapped in a sailcloth that smells like feet and fungus. The fire burns low. A crab climbs onto your stomach in the night. You don't move. You're too tired to be alarmed. You name him Franklin. He is your only friend. At dawn, the alarm is raised. One of the boats is missing. No signs of struggle. No footprints. Just gone. The quartermaster blames spirits. The gunner blames locals. Gentle Ned blames the sea witches, though he also says the full moon is humming too loud, so his vote doesn't count. You stare at the horizon. It's gray again. The wind has changed. The captain orders everyone back to the ship. You don't argue. By midday, you're hauling crates aboard, sunburned, half-sober, and full of bug bites. Your skin itches, your gut gurgles, and the back of your throat tastes like fermented beetle juice. You collapse on deck as the Mourning Gull pulls away. You look back once at the trees. You swear they're waving goodbye. Not kindly. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because the land doesn't love you. The sea doesn't want you. And now you're starting to think. The ship is the only thing keeping you alive. Just barely. You're learning to sleep like a pirate, which is to say, you sleep lightly, suspiciously, and never with both boots off. Because if the ship doesn't lurch you out of your hammock, a rat might. If a rat doesn't, a drunken crewmate tripping over you on the way to piss off the stern certainly will. And if by some unholy miracle you sleep straight through the night, You'll be woken by the sunrise, burning your eyeballs through the gun ports, or the cook throwing a bucket of salt water at your face and calling it breakfast service. This morning, though, you wake up to gunfire. Not a drill. Not a cannon test. Not even the usual threat to shoot one-eyed bastard for cheating at cards again. No, this is the real thing. The whole ship shudders. Dust falls from the beams. You hear the thump of cannon fire below deck. Then someone screams. They're port side. You don't know who they are. You don't care. You scramble. The Mourning Gull is under attack. The enemy ship is close too close. Black sails, big guns. A crew yelling in a language you don't recognize. You glimpse them over the railing. Scarred faces, leather armor, axes instead of swords. Not navy, not merchants. Pirates, different pirates. The kind that doesn't ask questions before they board. You're handed a cutlass. It's heavy, awkward, rusted. You grip it like a terrified squirrel grips a stick, unsure whether it's a weapon or your last hope. The quartermaster shoves you toward the cannons. Make yourself useful, he snarls. The gun deck is smoke and chaos. Men scream orders. Powder chokes the air. Cannonballs thump like divine judgment. You're thrown a powder bag and pointed to a cannon. You run. You load. You get knocked over. You try again. The noise is blinding. Not deafening. Blinding. Because you can't see anything. The smoke is so thick you might be shooting into a fog bank. Every blast rattles your bones. Every missed shot earns a boot to your rear. You pray. Loudly. You're not sure to whom. Whoever's listening. One cannon misfires. The man beside you goes down screaming, half his arm gone. The medic drags him away, muttering about ghost bones. Above deck, it's worse. They've boarded. You burst up the stairs just in time to see a man with no nose slam a boarding hook into the railing and leap aboard with a roar. He wears a bandolier full of knives and a permanent snarl. His lack of nose makes his face look like a punched-in cake. He sees you. You freeze. He lunges. You parry, accidentally, mostly by falling backward. Your cutlass catches his belt. He stumbles. You kick him somewhere painful. You hope. He snarls, swings, misses. Then someone barrels into him from behind a crewmate. The two of them tumble over the side. Splash. You sit there shaking, bleeding from a cut you didn't see happen. The captain appears beside you, covered in soot and confidence. Good job, he says. You didn't die. Then he shoves you toward another knot of fighting and draws his saber. Eventually, it ends. You don't win, but you don't lose either. The enemy ship pulls away, sails torn, hull smoking. Your deck is littered with blood, broken crates, and groaning men. The cook is dead. The bosun is missing a toe. You've got a black eye, a bruised rib, and at least one new phobia. You helped roll one cannon back into place, and then vomited into the sea from the adrenaline. The captain surveys the deck like a man checking the damage to his favorite painting. Could have been worse, he mutters. That night, no one sings. There's no rum ration. Just cold beans, silence, and the creak of a battered mast. You sit with gentle Ned and the remaining crew playing cards on a crate. You lose every hand. You can't concentrate. Your ears are still ringing. Ned says, "Better to lose at cards than die with one in your throat." You nod. You don't ask him to explain. Later, as you patch sails by moonlight, you see No-Nose climb back aboard, soaked, bleeding, grinning. He nods at you. You drop the needle. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate. Because the sea isn't fair. The deck doesn't care. And some enemies survive the waves, just to haunt your next sunrise. The wounds from the last fight haven't even scabbed yet when trouble starts brewing below deck. You feel it before you hear it. Like a storm in the wood, something subtle. shifting in the shadows of the hold. It starts in whispers. Words that die when you step into a room. Men who stop laughing when you walk by. Eyes that narrow when the captain's back is turned. The ship feels too quiet, too calm, and that's never a good thing. One-eyed bastard calls it the belly growl before the puke. It starts with the food. Rations have dwindled, not just in size but in quality. The bread is less biscuit, more brick. The salted pork has sprouted a white fuzz you're fairly sure means it's plotting to kill you. The cook is dead left in a shallow grave back on the island, and the new one, Gutter Joe, has never so much as boiled water. Every meal is a gamble, every bite an invitation to internal mutiny. And then someone finds the maggots. You're elbow deep in a barrel of flour, searching for something not actively moving when your fingers come up covered in squirm. The others crowd around. There's a moment of silence. Then gentle Ned mutters, "Well, at least they're full of protein." Nobody laughs. The captain orders the barrel tossed overboard, but men have already eaten from it. And by evening, 4 are doubled over, moaning, their stomachs groaning like cursed drums. One of them vomits what looks suspiciously like a live larva. You start skipping meals. Then come the night songs. You hear them first when you're on midwatch, standing at the bow, listening to the creak of the ship and the quiet lapping of the waves. The moon is high. The stars are cold and sharp. And then ... singing, faint, mournful, a woman's voice. It slips across the water like fog. You blink, listen. You're sure it's coming from the sea. You call to the lookout. He hears it too. The crew gathers, half asleep, watching the horizon with wide eyes. Some murmur about sirens, others about ghosts. One man whispers that it's the ship herself, the Mourning Gull weeping for what's about to come. No one speaks of it again by morning, but everyone heard it. Tensions rise. The men are restless, angry, hungry, and worst of all, bored. When there's no battle, no wind, no fresh water, and no good food, pirates start fighting each other. A punch over dice becomes a knife in the ribs. Someone accuses the quartermaster of hoarding grog. Another swears the captain has been keeping maps from the crew. A rumor starts that there's treasure aboard, and the captain means to keep it for himself. You don't believe it. Not really. But you notice more men standing in corners, whispering, cleaning weapons that don't need cleaning, and a knife goes missing, then a pistol, and 2 men are found in the hold with slit throats. The captain makes no speeches. He drags one suspect out by the hair and throws him overboard in full view of the crew. The man doesn't scream, just glares as if he knew this was coming. The crew is silent afterward, too silent. That night, even the parrot doesn't squawk. You lie awake in your hammock, unable to sleep. You think about home, if you can still call it that. You think about warm bread, dry socks, the sound of rain on shingles instead of canvas. You think about the first day aboard this cursed vessel, and how death back then had seemed like an abstract, far-off thing. It isn't now. Now it breathes down your neck, in every shadow, in every creaking rope, and every whisper too soft to be safe. You wake to the smell of blood, not a metaphor, actual blood, on the stairs. A smear, and then a trail. You follow it up to the deck, where no nose is leaning over the rail, sharpening a blade. He doesn't look at you. Sleep well? He asks. You nod. He chuckles. Didn't. Then he turns and walks away. The captain calls an all hands. It's midday. The sun is too bright. The sea is too calm. The crew lines up like dogs, waiting to be either fed or shot. He paces slowly in front of them. You think I don't know, he says, voice low and gravel thick. You think I don't hear you whispering, planning, plotting. He stops, looks right at you. You flinch. You want to take this ship? Be my guest. He draws both pistols, cocks them. Just know whoever starts it dies first. Silence. Then the captain spits, holsters his pistols, and turns away. It works, for now. You spend the next day patching sails with hands that won't stop shaking. The sun blisters your neck. The rope burns your fingers. The constant tension has your jaw clenched so hard your teeth ache. You wonder if anyone will sleep tonight. You wonder if you should. That evening, you play dice with Gentle Ned, One-Eyed Bastard, and a new man called Broken Tom. You lose. Again. As usual. Bastard grins and pockets your last coin. You know, he says, rolling the dice one more time, I heard the captain keeps a lockbox in his quarters, full of real coin. You don't answer. You notice the way Bastard looks at you. Testing. You suddenly feel very, very alone. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because the ocean may be cruel, but it's nothing compared to hungry men in close quarters, with knives, secrets, and just enough rum to start a war. The air is thick with tension, so much so that even the wind refuses to blow. The Mourning Gull drifts through waters flat as spilled oil, sails hanging limp, ropes swaying without purpose. The sky presses down on the crew like a wet sack, and time, once measured in shifts and storms, begins to blur. You've started counting days by how often you vomit after breakfast. So far, that's 6 in a row. You might be dying, or adapting. It's hard to tell, but it's not the sea that bothers you. It's the eyes. They're everywhere now, watching, measuring, waiting. You wake up to find your boots missing again. Someone pisses in your hammock. Someone else sharpens their knife, just a little too loudly near your ear. And worst of all, nobody speaks above a mutter. It's like the ship has gone feral, as though every man aboard has begun to believe in curses again. Even Colonel Bloodgut won't come near you. He's taken to sleeping atop the mainmast and whispering things to the stars. You try to ask Gentle Ned what's going on. He just looks at you and says, "It's the map." You blink. "What map?" Ned lowers his voice to a whisper. "The captain's map. The real one." You hear more over the next few days. Scraps of rumor passed like smuggled coins. They say the captain keeps it in a locked chest beneath his bed. They say it's old, ancient, drawn in blood, or charcoal, or ash. That it doesn't point to a place, but to a thing. Something buried, something cursed. One man says it leads to the bones of a god. Another says it leads to a shipwreck full of gold and death. Another insists it's a place where the sea itself dies. You laugh at first. Then you stop, because suddenly it all makes a sick kind of sense. Why else would the captain keep sailing in circles? Why the endless detours, the whispered arguments with the quartermaster, the endless string of dead cooks? You start watching him closer, and that's when you begin to notice the signs. The captain stops sleeping. You know this because you're on the same watch rotation, and he's always awake pacing the quarterdeck like a man trying to outrun his own thoughts. You see him staring at the horizon with eyes that don't blink. He talks to himself, not muttering, speaking, as if to someone standing just out of sight. You once catch him reading a page in a language you're fairly sure isn't meant for human mouths. He notices you watching. He doesn't get angry. He just smiles. "Ever dig your own grave?" he asks one night. You shake your head. He nods. "Good. Keep it that way." The crew grows more restless. The weather turns strange. Rain falls for 3 minutes at a time hot, then freezing, then gone. The sea foams in odd patterns. The compass spins even when the ship isn't moving. At one point, the sun appears to rise in the west. Everyone notices. No one mentions it. Then men start disappearing. One night, it's Broken Tom. Next night, Hook and Rawl. No blood, no struggle. Just gone. Vanished like smoke. Some say the captain's feeding them to the sea. Others say they stole a lifeboat and ran. But you know the truth. They went looking for the map. You hear it from One-Eyed Bastard, of all people. He's drunk, bleeding slightly from a bite wound, and muttering in a circle of lantern light. They went down there, he says, gesturing toward the captain's quarters. Below, found the box. Opened it. Shouldn't have opened it. You ask what was inside. He just shakes his head and says, it knew their names. You leave before he starts talking to the deck planks. But curiosity is a disease, and soon it eats you whole. You sneak into the captain's quarters one night when he's above deck, arguing with the stars. The door is unlocked. The room smells of tobacco, salt, and something older musk, rot, candle wax. There's a table covered in maps, but your eyes are drawn to the chest. It's smaller than you expected. Iron-bound, locked, you kneel. Press your ear to it. It hums. And suddenly, you know, this isn't a map to treasure. It's not a place. It's a price. You back away, fast, almost knock over a lantern. Then you hear the voice. Behind you. Find what you were looking for? It's the captain. You spin. He's smiling, calm, empty-eyed. You stammer an apology. He doesn't blink. You ever wonder why this ship keeps floating? He asks. Why the sea never swallows us, no matter how much blood we spill? You don't answer. He steps closer, because I pay it. With time, with names, with you. He leaves the room without another word. You don't sleep that night. You vomit up seawater, though you haven't drunk any. The next morning, you find your mouth full of sand. Bone dry, coarse, bitter. You stagger to the deck. Gasp, spit. The crew watches you like a man already overboard. No one helps. Not even Gentle Ned. Not even the medic. Especially not Colonel Bloodgut, who circles overhead and croaks, buried, buried. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate. Because gold is never free. Maps don't just lead to riches. And some ships sail deeper than the sea allows. Especially when the captain keeps a key to something that should never have been drawn. By now, you've stopped pretending things are normal. Normal died somewhere between the vanishing crewmen and the night you woke with barnacles growing on your boots. The Mourning Gull no longer sails in any direction you can name. The sun rises wherever it pleases. The stars rearrange themselves like they're drunk on their own light. The sails are full even when there's no wind. The anchor was thrown overboard 2 days ago, and it never hit bottom. You heard the chain keep going, link after link, until finally it just stopped. Not yanked, not snapped. Stopped. You asked where you were. The bosun laughed until he cried. The quartermaster stopped answering altogether. And the captain? He smiled and said, "Not where, sailor. When?" You begin to understand. This voyage is no longer taking place entirely in the world you came from. It begins with the book. You find it below deck while hunting for rope. A warped crate lies half hidden under a moldy sailcloth. Inside, a tome soaked through with brine, its pages like sheets of kelp, cover etched with symbols your eyes hate to look at. You know, no, you should leave it. But your fingers touch it anyway. It burns, coldly. The words inside are not written. They're grown, twisting root shapes like veins under translucent skin. The ink pulses faintly. The longer you stare, the more you feel like the book is reading you. Then you hear it whisper, "True north is where you drown." You drop it. You don't tell anyone. But the nightmares come that night. You dream of a compass. It floats in black water, spinning endlessly. No north. Just a needle that twitches like a trapped insect, pointing always toward something under you. When you wake, your sheets are soaked not with sweat, but seawater. Your tongue tastes like salt and iron. There's a small shell in your palm. You crush it without thinking. Colonel Bloodgut watches you from the rigging. He does not blink. Things worsen. The hull groans in ways it shouldn't. Knots unravel themselves. Maps fade overnight. The ship's bell rings by itself. And the crew, though still aboard, begin to whisper in their sleep. The same phrase, over and over. The drowned book, the drowned book, the drowned book. The captain keeps to his quarters now. You haven't seen him in 2 days. When you knock, the door breathes out warm fog. No one else dares ask what he's doing in there. You suspect you already know. Then the compass goes missing. The real one. Brass, steady, always trusted. It sat nailed to the helm for months. Until today. In its place is something new. Or rather old. A stone disc, carved with spirals and fish-like symbols. No needle, no directions. Just a single phrase scratched into its edge. Toward the hunger. The quartermaster tries to toss it overboard. It floats in the air instead. Then it vanishes. Nobody mentions it again. Desperation sets in. Men speak of mutiny again, but not to claim the ship. This time, they want off it. You overhear plans to build a raft. One man talks of praying to the Leviathan, asking for a quick drowning. Another sharpens his own teeth with a file and giggles softly while watching the waves. Gentle Ned begins collecting teeth in a pouch. Not coins, teeth. You ask him why. He answers, currency for what's coming. You leave quickly. On the 13th night since the book appeared, it rains blood. Not metaphorically, not poetically. Blood, sticky, warm, smelling of rust and rot. It pours for 6 minutes and 20 seconds. You time it. You remember because at the end of it, the captain emerges from his quarters. Barefoot, shirtless, eyes sunken and glowing faintly blue. He walks to the helm. He places the drowned book beside the broken compass. And he says, "Next, we dive." No one questions him, because no one remembers how. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because when you leave behind land, law, and light, you find the sea is not empty. It is waiting, and it remembers every name you forget, especially your own. There is no dawn on the day you dive. The sky forgets to change. The sun stays buried behind a bruise-colored haze, and the clouds hang motionless overhead heavy, swollen, like something is about to hatch from them. The Mourning Gull drifts into dead water. No wind, no sound, no seabirds. Just a vast, flat expanse of ocean blacker than ink, with a slick sheen that reflects nothing. The sea looks ... wrong, like oil pretending to be water, like a scab waiting to crack. Even the barnacles on the hull start to pull inward, shrinking from whatever lies beneath. The crew doesn't speak anymore. Their eyes have sunk into their skulls like coins in wet bread. The captain stands at the helm, shirtless, arms spread like he's waiting for judgment. Behind him, the drowned book pulses faintly, pages curling and uncurling like gills. He looks to the sky and says one word, "Down." You feel the ship move, not forward, not backward, down. The sea doesn't rush over the sides. It opens. The hull groans and you hear every nail scream. The sails crumble. The ropes twist. You clutch a beam with both arms as the Mourning Gull descends into the sea as if gravity reversed and the ocean had become the sky. Bubbles streak upward like shooting stars. The surface vanishes. You pass layers of lightless blue, then green, then black, then ... something else. Not darkness, but presence, thick as tar, cold as old bones. You start to see them, shapes, outlines in the water, towers of coral that grow upside down, ships from every century suspended like toys in amber, bodies not floating, not sinking, just waiting, eyes open. Some with ropes still around their necks, one with a crown. You lose count. Then the ship shudders to a halt. You've reached the bottom. But it's not sand you see. It's architecture. Stone blocks the size of hills. Statues with too many limbs. Archways big enough to swallow the gull. Everything's coated in centuries of slime and barnacle. But beneath the growth, you see writing. You recognize none of it, except for one word. It appears again and again, etched into stone, woven into carvings, pulsing faintly in the drowned book, now held aloft by the captain. Offerus. He turns to you, smiling wide. This is where it sleeps, he says, and where we pay. Then he jumps. The captain doesn't splash. He simply disappears. One moment he's there. The next, gone like a candle snuffed between fingers. Then the water begins to sing. It's not a sound you can hear with ears. It reaches into your spine and plucks nerves like harp strings. Every man aboard collapses. Some bleed from the nose. Others scream. One starts laughing so hard his jaw dislocates. You drop to your knees. Then ... It rises. You don't see it. Not at first. Only the shadows change. The structures below shift. One arch ... opens. Something steps out. It is not shaped like anything alive. Its surface glistens with a sheen of ancient rot. Its limbs bend the wrong way. Its mouth stretches from shoulder to shoulder and is filled with teeth that never blink, because that's what they are. It climbs the water toward the ship, impossibly slow and terribly certain. It has waited long enough. The drowned book lifts itself from the deck. Pages flutter. A sound like thunder and weeping fills the hull. And then just before the ship splits in half, just before the water folds in on itself like closing hands, you see the crew fall to their knees, arms open, welcoming it. And you run. You don't make it to the lifeboat. You don't make it to the rail. You don't even make it to the next breath. The ship swallows itself. The sea closes. The light dies. You are somewhere deep now, alone, sinking. Your name drifts away like bubbles. And far above, the stars begin to blink again, one by one, forgetting you ever existed. You wouldn't last a day as a pirate, because some voyages are not about treasure. Some captains are not meant to be followed, and some seas were never meant to be sailed, especially the ones that remember your face.